culture, fashion and craft. Hello everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, you're welcome. My name is Oti. I create content on sewing tutorials and turban cap. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys on how I made the shorts of this outfit. A lot of people have sent me message. They said I should show them on how I made the shorts. So this is the tutorial. This is me showing you how the shorts looks like on a top so that you guys can see it properly. It has elastic on the waist with inseam pockets. It is a free short. As you can see, it is not a fitted shirt. It is very comfy on me and I love it so much. There are different ways of drafting pattern for shorts and trouser. I'm going to be showing you the method that works fine for me. So let's move right to the tutorial. I'll be drafting on my pattern paper first before cutting on my fabric. I'm going to be using elastic size of 1 inch and my band height is going to be 1.5 inches. I'm going to minus 1 inch from all my vertical measurements. Like I said, my band height is 1.5, but I'm going to minus 1 inch. That is my starting line. So my waist to my hip is 9 inches. Waist to my crotch depth is 12.75. How do you determine your crotch depth? What I did is I divide my hip measurement. My hip measurement is 51 inches. So I divided it by 4, which gives me 12.75. This method works fine for me. So I'm marking 12.75. The length of my shirt is 18 inches. So I'm going to add 2 inches seam allowance, making 20 inches in total. I'm going to move forward and impute the same measurements. Waist to my hip 9 inches. Waist to my crotch depth 12.75. The length of my shirt 18 inches plus 2 inches seam allowance. So I'm going to connect the mark into a straight line. The next thing I'm going to do before joining the lines together, from the folded edge, I'm going to mark 1 inch like so. When we are cutting on the fabric, where I marked 1 inch is going to be our folded edge. Then I'm going to connect the 1 inch mark into a straight line. All my horizontal measurement is going to start from this straight line. So I'm going to connect the lines like so. After that, I'm going to label the lines. That's my hip line, my waist, my crotch depth line, the M, then the seam allowance. So the next thing to do, at my hip line, I'm going to impute my hip measurement divided by 4. Which is 12.75. My hip measurement is 51 inches. Divided by 4 is 12.75. So my measurement is going to start from that 1 inch mark. that will rule at the folded edge of the fabric. I'm just assuming this is the fabric. So I'm going to impute my hip measurements on my waistline, and on my crotch line I'm going to impute my hip measurements. Then I will connect that into a straight line. After that, I'm going to mark 1 inch on the waistline. I'm going to mark 1 inch inward to give it a shape around the waist. Then from that 1 inch mark, I'm going to connect it to the hip line. So with my French curve, I'm going to connect from the 1 inch mark to the hip line, just to give it a nice shape by the side. The next thing to do, on the crotch line, I'm going to impute my thigh measurement divided by 2. My thigh measurement is 32 inches. Divided by 2 is 16 inches. So I'm going to impute 16 inches without adding seam allowance. That's my 16 inches mark. I will join the line to meet the 16 inches. Then to draw my curve around the crotch, I'm going to measure 0.75 upward. From that angle, I'm going to measure 0.75. Then with my French curve, I will connect the curve to meet the hip line. The same measurement that I have, I'm going to impute that measurement at the M. Then I'm going to draw a straight line from the crotch to the M, like so. Then I'll connect the lines to join together. If you want a really free shot, you can cut it out this way, but I still want to further give it nice shape. So I'm going to measure 1 inch inward, like so. Then with my straight ruler, I'm going to connect it to my hip line. I'm going to repeat the same thing. I'm going to measure 1 inch inward, like so. Then I'm going to connect from that 1 inch to the crotch. Yes, this is the way I love to draft my short. So I'm going to cut that part out. I'm also going to cut the other part out as well. The part I'm marking X, I'm going to cut it out. So before I cut it out, I'm going to add half an inch seam allowance to the side. I'm going to add half an inch seam allowance to the side. The remaining seam allowance is going to be added to the back bodies. The only seam allowance I'm adding to the side is half an inch to join the front and the back bodies together by the side. After that, I'm going to connect the lines together and cut it out. I've placed the front to another pattern paper to cut the back. So I'm going to mark 3 inches for the back crotch extension. I'm sorry that the camera did not really capture that side very well, but what I did is I marked 3 inches for the crotch extension for the back bodies. Then on my hip line for the back, I added 2 inches seam allowance. On the waist, I added 1.5 inches seam allowance. Then for my back rise, I'm going to measure 2.5 inches. What I'm doing, I'm marking the front waistline to know where I'm going to start marking for my back rise. So 2.5 inches for my back rise. So from that 2.5 inches, I'm going to connect it to the front side. I'll connect it to the waist, to the seam allowance that I added to the front. So I'll move over to the hem of the shorts. I'm going to mark 2 inches seam allowance. I'm sorry that the camera did not capture that side. Then I extend the mark. So the next thing to do is to connect the mark together. I'm going to use straight ruler to connect from the back rise to the hip. Then from the hip, I'm going to use my French curve to connect to the crouch. Then from the crouch, I'm going to use the leg curve to connect it to the hem. I'm sorry that the camera did not capture that side. And that's it for the drafting. So the next thing to do is to cut it out. I did not add seam allowance to the waist because I've already added half an inch seam allowance to the front bodies. So I'm going to cut it out. I've cut it out on my fabric. This is what it looks like. The video is getting too long, so I'm going to be really fast with the sewing. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'll be adding inseam pockets to the shorts. So I'm going to first of all mark 1.5 inches away from the waist. Then from there I'm going to mark my pocket opening 6.5 inches for my pocket opening. Then I'm going to notch it. I'm going to notch that 1.5 inches. That's the beginning of my pocket opening, and I'm going to also notch the end of the pocket opening. This is me marking my pocket shape. I have a detailed tutorial on how to cut and sew inseam pockets. I'm going to put the link in the description box below. I'm going to join the two back bodies together around the crotch with half an inch seam allowance. I'll repeat the same to the front as well. I've joined them, as you can see. So the next thing to do is to pin the pockets to the bodies. Then I'll take to my sewing machine. I'm going to sew it with half an inch. I'm going to notch it and also top stitch the pockets. This is me sewing the pockets to the shorts. After that, I notch it, as you can see. I flip it over, then I top stitch. So I'm going to repeat this same process to the rest of the pockets. Then after that, I'm going to join the front and the back bodies together by the side and also around the crotch area. I've joined the front and the back bodies together, as you can see, and I've also hemmed the lower parts. So the next thing to do is to measure around my waist and cut my band. I've cut out my band. The height is 4 inches. So I'm going to fold it into 2 like so and notch the midpoint. Then I'll place it to my front crouch. I'll pin it down and sew it round to the waist. I've sewn the band with 1/2 inch to the waist. Then I stop 1.5 inches before the back crotch. That's the back crotch. I stop 1.5 inches. On the other side I stop 1.5 inches. So the excess that I added to the band, the excess inches that I added to the band, I'm going to close it up. Then I'm going to cut out the excess fabric. I'll cut it out. So what I'm doing right now, I've measured what will be enough for the band. So I'm pinning it down. Then I'm going to cut out the excess fabric. So the excess fabric that I have, I'm going to cut it out. After cutting it out, then I will close up the band. I'll sew 1/2 inch to join the band together to make it one piece. Then after that, I'm going to sew that band to the waist like so. Hope you guys understand. I first of all join the band together, as you can see. Then I trim out the excess fabric. So I'm going to sew the band to the waist and close up the back crotch area. The space that I left, I'm going to close it up. After sewing, your band should look like this. So the next thing to do, I'm going to flip it over to the right side. Then I'm going to finish the band on the right side. So the next thing to do, I'm going to fold 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to use it to cover the seam line that we sew. I'm going to use it to cover it like so. Then I'm going to sew it round the band. I'm folding 1/2 inch and use it to cover that seam. I'm finishing it up on the right side. I'm going to leave 2 inches opening where I'm going to pass my elastic. For the elastic, I'm going to use half of my waist measurement plus 1 inch. This is the final tutorial, guys. This is the final part. If you find my tutorial helpful, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you've not done so. I upload weekly tutorial on my channel. Also remember to click on the notification bell so that whenever I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Until I come your way next, please stay safe and remain blessed. Thanks for watching. Bye.